Hey everybody, I'm trying something different today, so I'm using the camera we would normally use on Sunday mornings for our morning worship service for our live feed to record, and I want to see how this looks. So it's just going to be a unique thing, but I wanted to try this out and see how it looks. So I want to say thank you for joining us. Let me know by leaving comments on Facebook. We don't have comments turned on there on YouTube yet. We'll look into possibly doing that later, but right now we don't have them turned on. So if you want to comment and tell us what you think of the look of this, if we do some devotion videos from here, they won't all be from here, even if you think it looks good, because we may want to do from just different areas. But I want to see how that works out. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pastor Brandon. Welcome to North Haven General Baptist Church. We're excited you're here. Today's just not your typical video. Normally we would have a Friday devotion, which we will have later this week. But Wednesday night, usually we have a Bible study going on here in the sanctuary, and we broadcast it on Facebook as well, and we share things with each other and answer questions and go through several different things for Bible study. But today, we still have quite a bit of snow on the ground. A lot of the side streets have not been touched for cleaning off. So those who live on side streets, it's hard to get out. As a matter of fact, I had a hard time even backing off of my street. Got stuck a couple times and had to work it back and forth just because I'm driving a minivan and there's low clearance. So I'm sure many of you are facing the same thing. So we want to just have everything just online today. And instead of having a regular Bible study like we would and having that awkward silence between me trying to see if you guys are going to respond to questions or anything, I thought we'd just have a video go up today. So as long as weather is working with us, then we'll have our normal Bible study next week, and we'll pick up what we were actually going to do for Bible study about 4 weeks ago now, because we had a cancellation, then we had missions night, then we've had, I think this is the second Wednesday in a row we've had to cancel because of weather. So we've had quite a bit going on with weather. So I know some of you are tired of it, some of you are excited for it. So wherever you are, just know that God's in control and it's okay. And I'm glad we can be able to meet online just as we are today. Today our message is titled, "What Do You Reap?" And you know, in life, we go through different phases and we have struggles and we get tired. We get exhausted. We grow weary and we have a hard time. You know, we've all worked in some way hard enough to the point that we just become extremely, extremely weary. And I know there's many people who are out in things like this and working more because of the weather that we have. And they're, I'm sure, very weary of this type of weather. I know I've done a job where you had to drive in this, and I grew very weary of it very quickly. Now that I don't have that job, I enjoy the winter weather a whole lot more than I did during that time. But we get to that point where we just don't want to do anymore. We don't want to work anymore. We don't want to study. We don't want to adult anymore. We don't want to help anymore. There's just so many things that come down on us. We just don't want to do them anymore. And because we've gotten so tired of one thing or the other, you know, we just get weary, and because of that, we start to think of the return as not good enough for us. You know, what we get in return doesn't seem to be as exciting. You know, we go to work, we face the same people, we do the same job, we go through the same process day in and day out. Or we go to school and we might get to see our friends and stuff at school, but we go through the same type of study, and we go to the same classes, we have the same teachers, and we're going through the same steps, the motions every day. Excuse me. Or even when we have online school, we may not even get to see our friends as much, or even if it's at Zoom, it's through a computer screen, so we don't see as much. And we're doing this thing, and it gets monotonous, it gets tiring, and we just grow weary. And the day in and the day out, the results of our work are mostly the same. They're mostly the same. We did our job. We were frustrated. We were annoyed. We get paid so we can afford to live. We're not living a life to celebrate. Many of us, that's the case at least. We are working out of necessity. We are working because we have to be able to survive, to be able to have food on the table, to have a roof over our heads, to be able to support our children, our grandchildren, our families, to be able to support ourselves. We do this work. Or we go to school because we're supposed to if we're underage. Excuse me. Or we go to school. If we're adults, we go to school because it's the next step in life, or because we're looking towards a certain degree, a certain career path. Although there are so many that are out there that go to school and still don't even know their career path. As a matter of fact, 40% of students that are out there today in college have no idea what they want to do when they get out. 80% actually change their major at some point, at least once throughout their college career, because maybe what they wanted to do doesn't seem as appealing once they start studying for it, or they feel like they're led another way, or they take a class that leads them into a different direction. So we go through these things, and life can push us to the point where we are just done, right? We're just done. We don't want to face it anymore. We don't want to do these things anymore. Now, sometimes we can react, and when we're weary, we can do things. We might be able to react by taking a break, taking a vacation, or getting away from the stress of parenting by getting a babysitter and going out, although that's been harder to do lately. Or letting the kids stay over at somebody else's house just so we can take a break, so to speak, because we're just so weary. We're so weary of adulthood. However, it's not always the answer to get away like this. It's not always the answer to take just a break. Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 through 10 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good. For the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Anything that builds up, furthers the mission, expands the kingdom, and blesses God is doing good." When it comes to doing good, we need to not become weary or lose heart. I know a lot of times we've been doing something for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and we get tired of doing that specific thing, whether it be from work or even in ministry. And sometimes we have a season of doing things in our lives. We have a season of working in a certain ministry. And we become weary and we think it's time to let go of it all. What we need to realize is it's never a time to let go of furthering God's kingdom. Now, we may transition from this ministry that we've done for 40, 50 years and move into doing this ministry because that's where we feel like God is pushing us, and that is awesome because we don't stop doing ministry. We don't stop doing good. It's okay to switch your time of ministry. I've been in ministry for many years now. It's coming up this fall will be 20 years I've been in ministry. 20 years ago, 2001, I believe it was August of 2001, if I remember right, it was when I started in vocational ministry. Now, part of that was part-time, and now I'm full-time, but I started in vocational ministry 20 years ago. And I started off as a youth pastor. That's where I was called to be. And more recently, God has called me out of that into being behind the pulpit full-time, being a pastor, senior pastor of a church full-time. And that's been my transition. My ministry hasn't stopped. It's transitioned into something different, but it's still doing good. And that's what God is calling us to do. We face different times in our lives. We face different struggles in our lives. We face getting tired in our lives, but we cannot stop doing good. We're called to do ministry. We're called to do His work. We're called to reach out to others for Him. So we are to do good while we can. We are to work because our harvest will come at the right time. See, we are to do work while we're here on this earth, while we are able physically, mentally to do work on this earth. We are to continue to do that work. But when it's time for us to go home, when it's time for us to go to heaven, when He calls us home, whether that be by death or Jesus coming back again, whichever time that is, whichever time we're looking at with that, that's the time that our harvest can be reaped. That's the time where we can be back with Jesus and the work that we do here on earth is done. But until then, we continue to do His good work, do good for all. We are to have a special love for people, just as God has a special love for every single person. We are to continue to work for them, care for them, love on them, share with them, do for others continually. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I hope that you can look at your path in ministry, what God is guiding you to do, and understand that you may at some point feel like it's time to get out of one ministry or another, to stop doing one thing for God, as long as we're continuing to pick up something else, as long as God is guiding you into a path. For many years, I never thought I would be out of youth ministry. I just thought that that was going to be my path. For many years, I thought God has had me on that main line of going in and working with youth. And I still, don't get me wrong, I still do that. I still have a passion for youth. I still have a love and joy of doing that. But God has pulled me from that because He has a different ministry and plan for me. So for the last 3 years, I have been on a path for a while to get to this point to become a pastor, and now for almost a year being a pastor. Being the one that guides the flock, that guides and lifts people up. We are in charge of caring for people, loving on people, and being there for people, doing good work. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I encourage you to check out more videos here on our YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about Christ or more about our church, please check us out on our website, northavengb.com.